For the practice today, we won't need any props unless you like to use them. In some movements, potentially a block could be a nice elevation if your hamstrings or your back line is quite short. But other than that, maybe a cushioning, a blanket, whatever you like to have for relaxation. And I'm aiming to give you a relaxation. So that will be happening. And I would ask you all to begin lying down on your backs. So getting rather comfortable. You can support yourself in any shape or form that you need to actually be at ease. You can lie down in any way that feels comfortable for you. So there's no need for Shavasana, but if that is your most comfortable pose, you might as well. As you allow your body to come to rest, the overall theme that I have for this week is that of bringing and wishing every being on this planet happiness and freedom, which also is a trigger for compassion and kindness within ourselves. And right at this moment, I would ask you to allow yourself to relax into those thoughts. Acknowledging that we all are very privileged. We all have a space within our homes in which we can practice, a mat to be on, to allow ourselves to tune into that safe space that we create for ourselves on these mats. And you might have other things to be grateful for at this very moment, which I encourage you to list in your mind. Before you allow your mind to rest upon the breath. To tap into this moment, right here and now, the only moment to provide that opportunity for others. Please allow your breath now to deepen. To feel a more rising and falling of the front of the torso, be that in your belly or in your chest area. To enjoy the fresh air coming into the body and the release of the stagnant air as you exhale. We're not holding on to anything, we keep it flowing. And if you like, you can extend into the usual full yogic breathing, where you breathe into your belly. Expand your lower ribs and take your breath up to your collarbones. And where you're exhaling, to allow the belly to fall, the ribs to come in, the chest to release. And each breath now flows from belly to ribs to collarbones in and out of your nose. And for those of you who are familiar with Ujjayi breathing or victorious breath, or those of you who would like to try, you can add a light constriction in the back of the throat to narrow down the air passage. And with that, creating an oceanic sound as the breath moves in and out of the nose. But keep the pattern of movement with the breath going through the body, with or without that Ujjayi technique. And as you allow that to occur, you might tune in with the sound of the breath. A deep, full in and out breath traveling through the nostrils, allowing your body to rise and fall. Keeping your body in this way, breath flowing in and out. But if it is anyhow possible, sliding your legs out long while keeping the breath flowing and bringing your legs out wide, much wider than the mat really. And maybe as you next inhale, raising your arms up over the head and allowing the arms to be wide as well. So you're appearing to lie down like a star. And when you next inhale, reach into your right hand and down to the left foot, stretching across the body and breathing out to soften. As you keep the shape, stretch now into your left arm and down to your right toes on the in-breath. And release that on your out-breath, relaxing again. Now reach into both of your arms, down both of the legs, extending into that star. And breathing out to soften that again. You can either repeat these actions once more, or on your next in-breath, as you raise the right arm, the left leg just a little bit off the ground, reaching into the sides, and then relaxing it back down on the out-breath. An option on the left arm and the right leg the same, maybe just off the floor, and then relaxing that down. And the obvious option of lifting both legs, both arms, just a little off the ground, and then relaxing that back down. Bending your elbows as you slide your arms again along the sides of the body. And then bending your knees and bringing the knees into the chest. Give them a loving squeeze. If it feels good, let your body rock from side to side, stimulating and massaging your back. And you can choose, of course, to just roll over onto your sides to come into a seated shape. But you could also choose to rock a few times forward and back to then come into a seated form. To sit today, I recommend Sukhasana or an easy pose, which is where one leg is in front of the other. However, if your knees or your hips aren't happy with that, you can sit maybe on the heels, knees wide, or the legs extended in front of you. Placing your hands upon your knees, lifting up from the crown of the head as you inhale. And with the exhalation, lowering your right shoulder slightly in front and turning your gaze over your left shoulder. And as you inhale, center yourself. And with the exhale, lowering now the left shoulder down in front and looking over the right. Inhaling, tall seat. We'll make that a continuous movement. Exhaling, bring the shoulder in front, look across the other. Inhaling, sit. Exhaling, twist. You might be able to get the shoulder a little bit down and in front after a couple of rounds. As you continue the movement, there's a subtle forward bend that becomes part of it, if it works for you. Let this round be your last, and as you inhale once in balance to sit, place your hands out in front, and with the out breath then walk or slide the hands forward and surrender into a seated forward bend. Doesn't matter how far you can get into this shape, let your head go, you can round your back. And just softening here. Then start to walk the hands back up to your body before placing your fingertips down behind your back. And as you're inhaling, start to squeeze your shoulder blades and open your heart. And maybe if your neck is happy, bring the chin forward and then guide it back. Stay here for a few breaths, breathing over the open front side of your body. And with your body expressing a readiness to open your heart for kindness and compassion. Then release your back bend, bring your head back up. Keep your fingertips behind, lean to the space between the sit bones. Raise your feet and change the cross of the legs. Landing back in Sukhasana, easy pose with the opposite leg in front. Placing hands back upon your knees and lengthening again up to the crown of the head. You can repeat the same movement as we did on the other side. Or you could choose to place the hand down in front as you breathe out to lean down there and turn your gaze over to the opposite shoulder. When you inhale, hands back to knees, tall seat. Maybe the other hand comes in front as a support to lean in and twist. Inhaling, come to sit, your pace now, your breathing. As you continue your intensity, your choices, as you take good care of yourself, you can stay with just leaning the shoulder in or support yourself with a deeper forward bendy twist as you place your hand down in front instead. Repeat for one more round. No need to rush, just go along with your breathing. When you completed this round, lift back up into your center, bring the hands back down in front, and exhale into the forward fold. Please surrender here again. Noticing if your sit bones are grounded or if they have lifted, and what impact that might have on your posture or the way you're feeling within the posture. And then let your hands walk back in towards you. Bring them back down behind your back. Now you can choose to repeat that chakrasana, or you could place your hands down flat with fingers pointing forward. Alternatively, you come up onto fists and your thumbs are pointing forward. Step your feet down if you would like to extend the back bend at hip distance in front of you. On the inhale, in that case, lift your hips up. As you look down towards your knees, you can make a choice to keep it like this, or lift your chin and guide the head backwards, upward facing tabletop. Keep a squeeze in the buttocks. You can lower down anytime, Or you could add a movement. For that movement, you would breathe in and let your hips soften downwards, and then breathe out and push the hips back up. On the inhale, let them soften. On the exhale, push them up. If you enjoy that movement, repeat for 3 more. If you don't, take a rest. That's fine too. At the end of the 3 movements, we will all join back in, sitting on our bottoms on the ground. Then bring your legs over to one side and find your way to a standing forward bend at the front end of your mat. Now, this was a pose which I referred to as potentially using a block underneath the hands if your fingertips can't comfortably touch the ground. You might keep your gaze down somewhere in between the hands or on the block, and then rock back towards the heels and peel your toes away from the mat. Then lean towards the toes, and you may lift your heels, but you might also just lean the weight forward in the feet. Rocking back to the heels, toes lifting, and rocking forward towards the toes with or without a lift of the heel away from the ground. Just do that for a few more breaths, leaning forward and back within the feet and observing the sensations within your legs, the feet, the back. Pausing then with the weight more or less grounded evenly across the feet and allowing the head and the arms to relax downwards. Engaging now your lower abdomen towards your tailbone, keeping your knees rather soft and breathing out to curl up into standing. Take a lift of your shoulders as you inhale and roll them back and down as you're breathing out. Taking your feet a step further apart to about shoulder distance, keeping the alignment of the outer edges of the feet parallel with those of your mat. Bring a bend into your knees as well as into your hips, and rest your hands down to the center of your thighs, with your fingers pointing inwards. This will become a cat and cow movement, but I would love you to explore this supported chair pose first. Maintaining the bend in the knees and in the hips. As you inhale to lift your tailbone, start to open the front of the torso and raise your gaze. And when you're breathing out, draw your tailbone under. Start to round your back and slowly lower the head last. With the inhalation, lifting from the tailbone, opening the front, head lifting last. And exhaling, drawing the tail under, rounding the back, and then lowering the head. Repeat that for 3 more rounds, moving one vertebra at a time, always starting with the tailbone. And the last part of the body moving in this cat and cow variation is the head. Exploring that movement in your spine, where the main energy channel flows, as well as the side energy channels of Ida and Pingala Nadi. Whenever you have completed your rounds, pausing, finding a neutral spine, and lifting the hands to touch in front of the chest. Then push down into your feet and take a breath in to raise your arms. And as you're breathing out, let your arms drift out to the sides and lower down by the sides. Here's our first mountain pose. The palms are facing forward. You can adjust your stance a little, maybe take it back into about hip distance. If you prefer your feet touching, that's of course fine as well. Our next movement starts from this mountain pose. You can shift your weight a little towards your left foot. Bring the right foot forward and start to circle the foot. And if you like, you can circle your hands as well, bringing or combining these two movements. Now, as we continue that movement, change direction. And then stop the movement altogether and begin to let your arms and your leg, if possible, swing forward and back. So our first real balancing move. So if you feel this is okay for you to do, extend the movement even further, swinging arms up and back, leg forward and back. And then complete that with a warrior 3. You can always tap the foot down, just like I did before. Finding warrior 3 with the arms alongside the body. The flexion in the foot that is lifted so that the hips, the toes, and the gaze are down towards the floor. If you find yourself being quite happy and steady, you could extend your arms all the way around your head with palms facing or touching. Then point the toes, step the foot down, and turn yourself towards the corners of the mat with your toes facing the long side of the mat. Bring a bend into both of your knees, so we're coming into a goddess pose stance. Let your arms softly lift out in front, flexing through the right wrist and pull back with the other hands, fist your elbow by your side, so push and pull. Inhale, arms soft at the front, and exhale, changing sides, pushing and pulling. Now you can bring in a bounce into the legs, straightening a little as you inhale and as you push and pull, sitting much lower. Try and stand tall in this form. This has nothing to do with the chair pose. In children's yoga, this is called a strong person posture. Once you completed your last one, balance between the two sides, take a deep breath, reach the arms up, extend your body, turning your right toes or the left toes to the front, bring the foot forward and take a deep breath as you're extending the arms up. Then soften your knees and exhale to fold forward through the midline. Now I will invite you to keep your knees at a bend, and unless higher blood pressure prevents you from it, let the head go all together. And potentially here taking a hold of the opposite elbow. Assisting this forward fold with the belly resting over the thighs, and then maybe swaying the body from side to side. Then let your hands fall down towards the mat. Leave the weight lightly forward within your feet. Maybe a deepening of your forward fold. Then engage your lower abdomen and breathe out to round back up into standing. Lift your shoulders as you inhale and track them back and down to return into mountain pose. Take one deep breath. Have a sigh out to release the energy back down into the ground that supports us, the safety in which we are. And we will change sides. You might shift your weight to the right foot, lifting the left foot. And as you start to circle the foot, you might also bring back in the circling of the wrists. And then changing the direction of all of these circles going on in your body. Then release the whole circling and start with a soft swinging movement. Arms and legs swinging forward and back. You can increase the range of this movement. Arms lifting, legs swinging forward and back. Torso moving along with that. And then finishing that again in the warrior 3. Once more, extend the leg back actively by flexing the foot, toes, hips, and gaze it to the ground. Your arms might be alongside the body and actively extend it towards the back. If you prefer to go stronger, your arms can be raised around the head, palms facing or touching if you're reaching forward. Holding your balance. Then point the toes, step the foot again, nice and wide, turning once more your toes towards the corners of the mat as you face the long edge. The movement here will be different. As you next inhale, lift your arms, potentially come into mini back bend. And when you're breathing out, bend your knees and swing the arms through with a sigh. Inhaling, open. Go for 3 more. Swinging the arms up, folding forward, knees are bent, protecting the back. And after the last one, rise again. Release the arms, turn your right foot forward and join back in to stand at the front end of the mat. On your next inhalation, lifting the arms up. On the exhale, come into chair pose of your variation. Arms can stay around the ears. Arms can be lower. Palms could also face up to protect shoulders. Still too much, hands could also touch together in front of the chest. More important, your stance. Evenly over the feet, feet aligned, knees, hips bend, and there's a gentle activation of lower tummy to tail, while your sit bones are wide open, your spine supported, your gaze lightly in front. Stay here to breathe, or sit a little bit lower. As you inhale, push into your feet, reach your arms up. As you exhale, stepping your left foot back, grounding the whole foot down onto the floor. As you inhale, extend your arms again and straighten both legs. Then bend your right knee and come into warrior 2. Aligning your knee with your toes and over your ankle joint. Bringing a sense of pulling the feet in towards each other to tighten into the legs and allow your gaze to be at your front hand fingertips or slightly beyond your drishti. Please feel free to hold warrior 2. If you feel more like moving, let your left arm wrap behind your back. And as you inhale, reach forward. As you exhale, scoop along the floor. Breathe in to stand up and draw your hand towards your heart. And breathe out to bend the front knee again and return to your modified warrior pose. We'll do that twice more. Inhale to reach. Exhaling to scoop. Inhale, bring hand across the heart. And exhaling for the warrior. Inhale, reach. Exhale, scoop. Inhale, across your heart. And exhale, extending both arms again. Deep in breaths. Long, slow out breaths. Bend your back knee, lift your heel, take an inhale, high lunge. On the exhale, step the foot forward. You can help with hand on the thigh. Lift your shoulders, inhaling, and roll them back and down as you are exhaling. The back in the mountain form. As you next inhale, raise your arms again. You now know which one is your chair pose. So as you exhale, come into your variation. Feel again the groundedness over the feet. Sit bones open. Lower abdomen on to support. And sit as low as you can manage without losing the connection to the flow of your breath. Stay there with length in your spine. A gaze that is open and steady in front of you. With your next inhale, use your feet against the mat. Extend the body. With the exhale, step your right foot back. Ground the heel. And as you inhale, straighten both legs and extend your arms. And with the out breath, bring a bend into the front knee for Virabhadrasana 2 or the Warrior 2. You can, again, get that sensation of pulling the feet in towards each other, but always check with the front knee. Leave that over ankle and aligned with your toes to be safe in your knee joint. Your drishti, your gaze point, is just in front of your fingertips there. If this is where you would like to stay steady, please do. Otherwise, your right arm gently wraps behind the back. And then as you inhale, reach forward. As you exhale, scoop along the mat. As you inhale, stand up and cross your heart center. And when you exhale, return to starting point. 2 more as you inhale to reach. Exhale to scoop. Inhale to cross your heart. And exhale to reach back out. Inhaling, lean. Exhaling, scoop. Inhaling, cross the heart. And exhale, extending both arms. Again, joining back in for Warrior 2. When you next inhale, bend your back knee, lift your heel, and reach your arms up for high lunge. On the exhale, stepping forward. As we come back to the front end of the mat, finding your stance in mountain pose. Palms facing forward. The feet are very active in your mat. And you're standing tall, reaching up with the crown of the head. On your next inhalation, raise your arms up. Touch the palms. And then soften your knees as you breathe out and fold all the way down into your standing forward bend. On the inhale, let your hands slide up. Push your fingertips lightly into the shins and straighten your back forward. On the out breath now, stepping your left foot back and grounding the heel again. Please place both hands to the inside of your front foot. And as you're next inhaling, start to lift your left arm into side angle pose. You can support with the right forearm resting upon your thigh, or you can keep your arms open. Your gaze can either be straight ahead, down, or up with a light chin tuck. For a variation, let your upper arm drop behind your back, same as we did in the warrior two. But here we're keeping our shoulder open and the chest as well. Your choice further to deepen is to point the fingertips of the right hand down, bring that behind and underneath your leg for a full bind. No issues if you don't get there. You can always stay with me in the previous half bind. Allowing just a couple more breaths. And on the inhale, open the arms again. On the out breath, swing the upper arm back and down. Place your hands either side of your front foot. Lift your back heel and come into downward dog. Too strong to step down onto all fours. On the in-breath now, roll the spine forward. Come into a plank and drop your knees down as you're exhaling, untucking your toes. Also, please now come down onto your forearms, keeping your elbows at a rough shoulder distance apart. The palms of the hands can stay flat on the floor, or you might interlace your hands. Tuck your toes under from there and stretch your hips up and back. A baby dolphin, more gentle variation of the grown-up version, of course. And please feel free to stay here. Any movements I might suggest can be done with the knees on the floor. If you want to go stronger, lift the knees off the ground and extend the legs. Full dolphin pose. This is an inversion if we were to stay here, and I encourage you to do so for a few breaths, allowing all the blood to flow into the brain. So no matter whether your knees are on or off the mat, a movement I suggest for a few rounds is a dolphin dip. For that, as you inhale, lean forward to a forearm plank and breathe out to lift the hips again back to your dolphin or baby dolphin. On the inhale, coming forward to forearm plank. On the exhale, lifting the hips. If the movement suits you, your breath is flowing smoothly, come with me for another 3 rounds. 2. And last. If your knees are off the floor, please lower them again. We'll all untuck our toes, releasing any interlaces of hands, and then carefully allowing your pelvis to come down to the mat. Leave the forearms grounded, extend your legs back actively, and lift your chest forward for a swings pose. Please encourage not only the tops of the feet, but also your pubic bone into the ground. Keep a sense of lightness through the shoulders as much as is possible. And for any of you wanting to extend, you can move the weight into the hands, extend your arms, and lift even further into a seal pose. Take a deep breath wherever you're at. And another. Breathe in again. And as you're exhaling, let your elbows spread out and release your favorite ear down to the mat. You can close the eyes for a few breaths and just soften down. If there's any movements like wiggling of pelvis, making this relaxation a bit easier on the body, please do. Then slide your hands down either side of your ribs. Breathe in as you come up onto all fours. Either stay here or tap toes under and exhaling for a down dog. I suggest to walk your feet towards the front end of the mat. Take a breath in there for a half lift and breathe out back into forward bend. Then bend your knees rather deeply. Take an inhale, lift the arms out in front for chair and come into your chair pose or hold if that was yours. Again, get the groundedness through the feet and open sit bone, core lightly on. Then push into your feet, take a deep breath, maybe a little back bend. And soften the knees as you exhale to bring the hands through the midline into Uttanasana, standing forward bend. On the inhale, hands might slide up for half lift. And on the out breath now, stepping the right foot back and grounding the right heel. Front knee is over your ankle in a bend, and both hands come onto the inside of the front foot. As you're inhaling, raise your right arm, returning to side angle pose. Arms can remain open, or you can place your forearm to the middle of the thigh instead. Again, find yourself grounded through the feet. Choose your gaze point and keep it steady. If you do choose to look up, have a light chin tuck. Parsvakonasana. And as a variation, let your upper arm gently wrap behind your back. This is your half bind, keeping your shoulder back. If you want to come into the full bind, reach your left hand down underneath the thigh, maybe coming into a bind of the fingers or the wrist, and still bringing your right shoulder back. As you hold your variation, don't let your breath get stuck in a more challenging standing posture. Let your breath flow in and out. With the next in-breath, release all binds and open your arms again. With the out-breath, swing the upper arm back and down, framing the front foot, lifting the back heel. Step again into downward facing dog or to all fours if that's your preference. On the next inhale, roll the spine forward into plank or kneeling plank. On the exhale, descend onto the front of the body, lying on your mat. Prone position, forehead is down, and we will place the arms alongside the body this time. There's two variations here. If your back isn't quite that great, you could keep your legs long and arms by the sides for a locust pose. If you want to go deeper, you can bend both of your knees, take a hold of ankles or outside of your feet. In any case, your variation, take a breath in and come to lift. If you've got your feet in your hands, please bring them back into the hands, but make sure that the knees are staying at hip distance maximum. And the same if your legs are out long. Use the adductors, the inner thighs, and keep the legs reasonably close so that your lower back is strengthened rather than compressed. Allow your arms, if they're loosely by the sides, to be active and reach in the direction of the feet. Your head might be lifted, but only lightly, so there's no compression in the back of the neck either. See if you can hold here for another breath, and potentially lift a little bit higher as you inhale. And then when you're exhaling, surrender back down into the front of your body. Change the ear down on the mat and relax. Again, swaying of hips, anything like that is welcome. Now let your hands come by the sides of your ribs. Bring yourself up as you breathe into all fours, and then come to sit. As you come to sit, I suggest to bring your feet over and across to the left-hand side. If this is not possible, put some cushioning underneath or choose to sit in an easy pose instead. As you inhale, lifting the arms, and as you exhale, turn in the direction of your feet. You can rest one hand lightly behind, the other hand in front. You might close the eyes for a little while or just steady your gaze there. Take yourself back to inward sensations, such as the breath, the movement of the spine, the effect on the abdominal area. As you inhale, center yourself and raise the arms again, and then swing across to the other side. If possible, place the back of the hand against the outside of the knee as you go to the twist in the open direction. Now take the hand from the front and bring that behind your back. So just the fingertips resting there. Lean towards your sit bones. If you like, you can lift the feet up before you swing them across to the other side. Repeat here. So with the inhale, raise your arms. With the exhale, twist towards the feet. One hand behind, one in front. A steady gaze point internally if the eyes are closed, or externally if they're open. Keeping your focus within this moment, sensations, breath. As you next inhale, center yourself, arms lightly lifted, and then breathe out to change sides. If you can reach, back of the hand against the outside of the knee for this twist. If that hand is quite active and we're exposing the wrist, we're also tapping into the vagus nerve and helping us to find release and relaxation. With the inhale, take your hand again behind you, but this time to extend your legs out wide. If you find that forward bending is challenging for you, please take the end of the mat, roll that up, sit up on the roll, or use a block or a cushion underneath the buttocks. We'll all flex the feet so the toes are pointing upward, and you can choose to keep a light bend in your knees. We'll place the backs of the hands against the inside of the legs and allowing our legs to stabilize gently against the back of the hands. Inhale, and as you exhale, slide down to one side. Inhale, center. And exhale, slide down to the other side, and then continue this rocking movement from side to side. As you are approaching the forward bend with that movement, moving further forward as you're still swaying from side to side. You might reach a point where you think, yeah, I'm not going anywhere anymore. If you've reached that point, pause there and release your hands or even arms there at the front, and also then letting go of the head. The only thing we're not letting go of is the alignment of the legs, but the upper body is now softening towards the center. While your toes are still pointing towards the ceiling, you might engage softly into Mula Bandha on each out breath. That's our root lock. As you engage your lower abdomen towards your tailbone. But on the inhale, you will let that go and allow the abdomen or even the ribs to expand. Your main focus, however, remains the longer exhalation, maybe with the activation of Mula Bandha. Noticing if the mind is wandering away. Maybe re-engaging it into the practice. With your next inhale, lift yourself about halfway up and out of the pose before walking your hands back into your body to come to sit. Bending your knees as you bring your feet down onto the ground, removing anything that you might have been sitting on and checking that there's space behind you. Now, given that it is a cooler day, or at least morning for us, please put socks, jumpers on, or gather your blankets around. As when we lie down now, we do so for relaxation. So as you breathe out, lower your back down onto the ground. You can take the knees with you and give them another hug to the chest. Maybe completing that with once more rocking side to side. Then let your feet land. And there's two choices for this relaxation pose: a constructive rest where your feet are as wide as the mat and the knees are dropping in. We'll all have the arms slightly away from the body, shoulders grounded, palms facing up. And for those of you happy to extend the legs, they can be extended over a bolster supporting the knees, or you can just lengthen them out and let your toes fall out towards the sides. Make sure that the head isn't tilted backwards. A light chin tuck will assist. And then get your body to be still and steady. Noticing that internally you are anything but still and steady. And observe just for a little while the movement of the heart and the movement of your breath. As you might have found some calm within, contemplate on the idea of wishing all beings to attain happiness and freedom. The Sanskrit mantra that is the direct translation is Lokah, Samasta, Sukhino, Bhavantu. May all beings attain happiness and freedom. This is a mantra you can listen to, you can chant, or use as a daily prayer. It reminds us that our relationship with all beings and things should be mutually beneficial if we ourselves desire happiness and liberation from suffering. No true or lasting happiness can come from causing unhappiness to others. No true or lasting freedom can come from depriving others of their freedom. If we say we want every being to be happy and free, then we have to question everything that we do. How we live, how we eat, what we buy, how we speak, and even how we think. Lokah, Samasta, Sukhino, Bhavantu. May all beings everywhere attain happiness and freedom. You can choose to take this mantra or its translation with you into your day or into the week. As you start to deepen your breaths, bring back some gentle movement to the body. You might wiggle fingers and toes. Maybe allow yourself to stretch out. Preparing yourself to come into a seated pose, as you might choose to bend your knees and roll to your side. And then joining me in an upright seated position. And if that resonates with you, you can touch the palms of the hands together, the thumbs lightly touching the sternum, Anjali Mudra. Lifting up from the crown of the head in a tall seated position. I would like to finish the class with a much easier chant, and that is the chant of Om, the universal sound that brings us together, followed by 3 shantis, which translate to peace. Let's synchronize our breathing, inhaling and exhaling. Then inhaling for the Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Lightly bow your head towards your heart, acknowledging this center of kindness and compassion. And extend that to each other with a deeper bow. Namaste.